Hello, I'm Clare Dunne and I'm a writer and an actor.
I
I'm
figured.
also holding a deadly cup.
What is that? Oh, cool. Yes.
This is my I don't give a fuck face.
Well, I think I'm wearing one of those today as well. So we're we're good
I
company.
think we all have to at this time.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Message from our sponsors.
I don't give a flying fuck. And I'm glad I've said that word at the start because I do curse like a sailor and I try not to, but it's just something that happens. So I'm
You
sorry.
you have a brother in me in that, so I wouldn't worry about that at all.
Sure, it's the title of one of my shows. Like it's one of my favorite words.
Come Grown Up Claire was
Mhm.
an actress, writer. Was that kind of in your heart from a young age?
I didn't know it was, but I think it was. I think it stems from my mom asking me what I'd like to do when I grow up when I was about 12. And I didn't have an answer. I just told her that I love chatting to my mates in school and I love telling them stories and making them laugh. And then she sent me then to like a drama class outside school, and the first one wasn't that much fun because it was just like those monologue exams. But then the second one was the Maeve Widger place, which I know Claire Monley went to because me and her ended up in the same school and going to drama class together. So it was sort of this little chalet down the back of a garden where we used to do singing classes and then do plays. And it was great. It was great crack.
And what did you enjoy kind of most about it? Do you remember? Was there anything in particular that kind of got you going?
The thing about Maeve Widger, I'd say, was she kind of instilled in you a load of like discipline. She kept saying this thing about like never be late, and I really remember that. Like it was like turn up, be on time is actually 95% of the job. That was a real thing with her. But then within those things, there was we had improvising stuff for the like last hour of it every Thursday, and I think that was just probably my favorite thing about it because we were with like I think John Cronin was still in it when I was there, and so he's a few years older than me. So we were like looking at like adults like doing amazing improvisation, and we were working with them, and we just felt like we were learning so much. Like it was incredible, and obviously loads of them are still acting now, which is a good sign. So
Did you have
yeah.
it in school as well? Was there kind of like were you known as like were you the girl who kind of acted and performed? Was that your thing?
I wasn't really like I wouldn't say that straight away. I remember it was in because I changed secondary school in the middle, like just after the junior cert. So I went from from a mixed school where I was very shy and very quiet, and the only person I spoke to about like acting was Sean Flanagan, who sat beside me in school, and he's in Foil Arms and Hog now, doing probably far better than me. But no, he was the only person that possibly knew I was into drama. But sure, I'd be mostly just asking him questions because he'd acted in loads of films. And then it was when I went to Our Lady's Grove, we did a musical. So like I went from being this really quiet person in BCS to then going to Our Lady's Grove. And the first week we were there, I had to audition for the musical, and that was quite scary. And I had been singing on my own a bit in Maeve Widgers, so I wasn't like completely like I wasn't like, oh, I've never done this before, but I definitely wasn't like, exactly owning it. But I did one of my songs for the audition, and everyone had to just sit around in chairs and watch, and it was just like, oh. But then the woman who was asking me, who was doing the auditions, who was really like, she had been a kind of just like a small part actor, if you know what I mean, in the West End. Like she was always like a dancer or a chorus person in the West End herself. So she actually had lived in London and experienced all this stuff. So she said to me, do you happen to know, because I sang this song from Anastasia and it was quite boring and twee. And then she said, do you know this song from Beaches? And I was like, Beaches? Oh my God. Because me and my sisters were mad about that film. And I was like, yeah, I do know that song. So out of nowhere, I'm giving it loads with a kind of little Bette Midler number, or it was like the young version of Bette Midler in the film, who sings this song about her friend. And it's like, you got to cheer up her friend. It's like, you got to laugh a little, you got to cry a little. And it was much more upbeat. And then, and she was like, thanks very much. And I was like, I was a little bit like, I kind of didn't know what had happened. Because, when you do something, like to this day, I think we all know what it feels like when you're in an audition and somebody asks you to do something completely that you didn't expect. It actually feels like you've gone through a tunnel and you come out the other side and you're like, I actually don't know what just happened. But whatever I did, it obviously worked because she gave me a man's role in the play because it was an all girls' school, and I got the part of Will Parker, who was this like comedy role, and so I had a song and a duet, and I think like that whole experience gave me a lot of confidence, because that was like a full-on sort of production on a big stage in the school hall, and we had some crack doing it as well. And that woman really encouraged me to think about acting, which was a huge sort of like boost for me, because I kind of thought of myself more as like I was going to be a drama teacher or maybe a director. I just loved it. I was very like into it, like reading it and listening to Maeve talk about stuff, and I found the stories fascinating. But something in me always thought I was going to do not quite acting. It was a bit weird. And then it was more then when I left school and I was sort of dwindling, I think, after the Leaving Cert, and I had applied for drama school but didn't get in. I sort of again was like dwindling a bit as well then, for a couple of years, going, should I be acting or should I be doing something else? So it all kind of went, it was a bit ropey over the teenage years, is what I say.
Come here, was when you say you were into reading about it, like, did you go to stuff? Did you go to theatre? Was it in your life?
Yeah, my granny brought me to the theatre the first time. I think it was the Gate Theatre, where I probably went, whoa, what's that like? You know, that kind of magic, the thing when everyone, you know, the wanky thing that everyone says, oh, I caught the bug. I think it's just that you actually feel your first experience of the shared experience of theatre, and you feel the magic, and you can feel like a pin could drop. I think it's just like the first time you ever experience that, and you go, yeah, I want a bit of that. And you can never really forget it. And I think one of the first things I saw was like Frances McDormand.
Oh, wow.
Her name Desire. Like it was, I was like, yeah, you got the bug. Like, bloody hell. Like my granny was bringing me into these really highfalutin plays, like from the age, once she heard I was doing drama classes, that was it. She'd bring me to the Gate each season. And
I mean, that was extraordinary. I remember seeing that production myself. It was just amazing, and she was extraordinary in it, like Frances McDormand.
Yeah, I mean, I barely remember now, obviously, because I was just basically a kid, but I do remember being told that she used to sleep on the stage, like a proper method actor, between the matinee and the evening, and sometimes for an hour before she went to her warm-up, she just lay on the bed on set and nobody was allowed to interrupt her. Found that out.
There you go. Come here to me. Go back just for a second to the audition and then the play, because I think that's an awful lot of people have kind of said that, and you can kind of get a mental picture of that moment when you kind of go stand into it and find it. And then was there a reaction? Like, I presume your folks went to see the play and everything, the musical, did they? Was there kind of?
Yeah, they did. They just thought like, oh my God, like she's having the crack. Now, I actually still have, I think there's a VHS tape of it. And I think I saw it once, like, I think me and all the girls sat down, because I'm still friends with all the girls that I was friends with in that year. They're my lifelong friends. They were actually at the premiere that you were at as well. Thanks for coming. So they have stuck with me all the way through. But we watched that back, and I would say a lot of people probably saw me sort of come out of my skin a bit, because I was a bit shy and quiet, and you can see in my body language, like I had this sort of, I was so lanky and skinny, I swear to God, hadn't a pick on me. And I was just like, and had this fake stubble on, gas crack. And my shoulders are up. Like, it's real, like that kind of like a bit awkward thing, not quite at ease with my body. But when I sang, you can hear I just was having a good time. And I wouldn't say I'm like a born singer or something, but there's something about singing, and when the song is telling a story to other people, I think it can set something free in you, definitely. And you feel like it's a bit of a safe space, because you're not quite you, and yet you're revealing the biggest thing about you, which is your voice. Like, so I think something definitely progressed for me there. And then I definitely felt a bit more confident when I was going to Maeve, which was on a Thursday night. After that, like, I was kind of going, yeah, well, I sang in front of like 200 people. I'm getting better at this.
It's fascinating. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things there. Like, obviously, I didn't want to start with, herself, your film, because we'd end up talking about that for the whole.
Yeah. We'll leave that to the side. Yeah.
Also, it's kind of gas. We could get onto in a few minutes now. The non-gender casting. As you've been on to kind of massive experiences of that down the line in the time of
It's
work.
only, I swear to God, only because today I was thinking, okay, I'm probably going to have to answer a lot of questions, and I had to like look up some things to try and remember, oh yeah, when was that, and da da da. And I was like, oh my God, I've been playing men all along. Like when I was at like, so I played obviously Will Parker in that, and that was great crack, and it was more like a comedy role, and that was grand. And then when I was sort of flailing around 18, 19, like I was nearly fucking 20 going to drama school, I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And I was doing these VTAC courses, and I was learning about stage management, and I was going to plays, and I was doing this, that, and the other, working in the Olympia Bar. And I did a non-profit play with Antoinette Duffy. And she was incredible. She was real different. Like she's real, like she taught me everything about, she told me to look at theatre of the oppressed and like stuff like that. I remember like, and we did about Bertolt Brecht piece for her, this non-profit thing. She did this thing where she didn't cast us. We didn't get cast until the third week of rehearsal. And I'm talking like halfway through that week. I'm talking maybe the Thursday morning.
Wow.
And you only had your fourth week, and then you were on. And we were playing in the Civic Theatre in Tala. And I was like, this is a bit of a mad process. So we're doing all this ensemble work, getting very deep into the Brecht stuff. I remember reading his biography. I was doing all sorts of study for it. And she cast us, and she gave me the leading male role. And I was like, excuse me? Do you know what I mean? I was like, what? And she basically said she wanted to cast it as to what actually suited each person. And I was like, oh my God, right? And I was, of course, at the time going through something in myself, going, I don't really know if I'm going to do acting. And I was actually applying to UCD for arts courses, like as if that was going to save everything. But I thought like I wanted to just get a degree or just do something worthwhile with myself. And so in the middle of the process during the journey, I think I'd said to her, oh sure, I'm going to go for an arts degree next year, but I'm just going to work and maybe do a bit of traveling and then go back and do that, blah, blah. But we were doing this thing, and I was playing Azak, and then I was like playing this role. I was getting to do comedy, drama, kind of lead the way. He was like a judge, and he sort of controlled things, and with Brecht you go in and out of things. And I was kind of going, well, if parts were like this, I'd probably stick at it. And only in retrospect, I'm realizing that my taste was above what women could get. Like, it was kind of like my taste was too fucking high. Like, I was just like, yeah, but I want that kind of role. I'd always be looking at the male roles and actually going, but I want to play something like that where you have that thing to deal with and this, that, and the other. And I want to do action and all this kind of thing. And so when I got to play Aztec, I was like, Jesus, I would fucking act if I could act roles like this. And then she told me to go and see this play that was on in the Project Arts Theatre. And it was a three-hander, The Maids. And it was on in just the Cube. Well, it was amazing. It was directed, I think, by Frenza Guidi, this amazing Italian director who I then went on to work with. She's incredible. And that was Royal Welsh College students. And I came out of there, not only did I fake call in sick to work to go see the show, I came out and I rapidly just went, oh my God, I have to apply to this college. And literally it was like, what do I do? UCAS, a UCAS form, go and get a UCAS form, fill it in. Like I rang up some college asking about it, rang helplines, finding out how to fill in the course forms, blah, 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 blah. And I just went, right, that's it, this is it. I'm applying to drama schools properly. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm fucking going for it. And then, of course, once I looked into it, I realised in the UK, your fees are paid for at first and then you just pay off a loan. But it's that you have to pay for yourself through the year and obviously your accommodation, all this kind of thing. So I just kind of went, right, I'm going to find a way. And that's what I did. And I went for Royal Welsh College, and then I literally went England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. That's what I did. I literally went, for Lambda, Trinity, and then Queen Margaret in Scotland, and then the Royal Welsh College. And of course, what happens after years of not getting into Trinity, I got into Trinity. Got into Royal Welsh College at the same time. But it was great validation that maybe, okay, yes, I could do this. So that was it then. And by that point I knew, like, okay, I'm gonna study acting and I'm gonna come out with something at the end of it. So
Wow. I mean, that's a big.
that was a long-winded answer.
No, not at all, because I think it's interesting. That's a big jump. I mean, at 20 to
Yeah.
be going. Yeah, I'm sorry, just to say. I mean, you sound very much like you were surrounded by it in your head and your heart. I mean, obviously working in Olympia, working in new theatre, you were kind of sound like you're.
Oh yeah.
But to make that jump then to move to Wales, that's a big thing.
Yeah, like it was amazing. I think one of the things that pushed me was, like, I was really humming and hawing. I was really undecided, and then I think there was one thing. Okay, there was one mad thing that I did, which is when I worked in Nourish in Nutgrove, this health food shop, because I was working about 4 jobs through the summer that year. Catherine Byrne walked in, the amazing actress that I loved, because she worked a lot with Passion Machine, and I was mad about them. And I was a bit starstruck. I was like, oh my God, that's Catherine Byrne. And I went, I could ask her about this. I could ask her about which school I should go to. And basically, I bottled it. I bottled it in the shop. Like, she was there for ages, and I was like, I'll say it now. I'll say it now. And I'll just scan her stuff. I'll just scan. And then eventually I was like, I said to the boss, I was like, she went down the shopping mall, and I went to my boss then. I was like, sorry, can I just run out to the toilet for a second? And she's like, yeah, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. Ran after Catherine Byrne. I basically stood in front of her trolley like a weird stalker. I was like, sorry. Just, you're Catherine Byrne, aren't you? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, can I just ask you something? And I was like, it was like a child standing there asking her a question. But I gave her my dilemma, which was like Trinity or Royal Welsh, blah, 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 blah. And I think in retrospect now I can see that she was looking at this very naive young one that really hadn't fucking grown up in herself at all, and was kind of like, I think you should think about the experience you'd get and the independence you'd gain from going to Wales.
Yeah.
Do you still live at home with your parents? Yeah, I'd say go to Wales. It was like, basically was saying just go for the adventure. Do you know what I mean? Like, go for the adventure and experience something new and meet other people from different cultures. And when she said it, it made a lot of sense, like, all of a sudden, especially coming from somebody who's like already done so much. Like, and then I remember I sat at home that night and I realized that in my gut, when I was in the room in the audition in Trinity, and when I was in the room in Royal Welsh, I realized I felt I belonged more in the Royal Welsh College room.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was just a good feeling.
Yeah.
Of course, that happened to be the year that was the last course in Trinity.
Wow.
Now, I think I was leaving a sinking ship and I was following my gut, like, on a level. And I know that people from that course are still working. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I think for me, I was following my gut, and I did the right thing for me at the time.
What was, like, was it a kind of, obviously it's a huge culture shock, not necessarily from, I mean, but to be kind of coming from living with your folks to going to Wales, to starting drama school, which is traumatic for most people at the best of times, like that's a real sink or swim space to be in.
Yeah, like, I felt like I was I felt real like I was, like, because I'm the eldest in my family, I'm the eldest of 6 girls, and I felt like I was slightly like stepping out on my own properly and really doing something a bit mad, like going for a career in acting, but also putting the years into drama school, and I was scared, and I do actually remember the first couple of months, because the first thing you did was a huge course in, like, improvisation, but really what it was asking what acting actually is and what is good acting. And that's when I knew, okay, I'm in a good place here, because they're even going like, well, is that good? Like, they're making you look at your contemporaries and they're looking at you and they're going, is that a good moment of acting? But why? And like, just tearing it apart. And then we had like business classes and all. So I was like aware that I was doing something that was very risky. But then I kept going, I think I'm in the right place, because these people are looking at it as a very practical career. You had a whole class that was on the thing of like just writing emails to people and like printing your CV and like doing very practical stuff, as well as then the real philosophical notions behind what acting is. And I kind of went, oh yeah, these people, I think I can do this, like, but I was scared, and I was very naive, and I was kind of younger than my linear age in a lot of ways. Like, I wasn't very mature, probably in some ways. And I'm really glad now that I did I did those steps, like, because for me, I had no connection. Like I rang Lisa Richards' agency a few weeks before going to drama school, or before applying for drama school, before going, how do you get on your books? Like, how does it work? Like, how do you get into acting? They actually like answered me. Like, they like put me through to one of the agents. They were like, yeah, well, you don't get it by just ringing us up and asking, can you be on the books? Like, obviously, think about going to drama school, you know. And now, like, I realize I've just taken those steps. But yeah, it was brave, but it was also going into another institution. And actually, once I was there, I felt like I was with the right people. The one thing I will say about Royal Welsh College is, so the whole thing you learn from the start in improvisation, and which has carried through to my writing, it's carried through to my life, and it has carried through to every bit of acting I've done. They made you realize within the first couple of weeks of the improv and the acting, when they're asking you what it was, they would click it for you. They'd go, see what the difference is when you just give everything, all your energy and your attention to the other person that you're speaking to on stage. Just do that. And ironically, you would be then very watchable because you're not concerned about people watching you. So they unlocked all this, anything that you had about people watching you and you caring what you look like. Or like, look, I know there's a level of like when you're on a certain kind of stage, you have to watch your angles and stuff like that. But I'm talking about just the pure art form, just like acting and being in the moment. They just cracked it open. It was all about generosity. It was about giving energy to the room, to the person you're talking, to the line you're saying. It was just a generosity of spirit that that was their code of honor. It was nothing about breaking you down in two and making you suffer. It was about a thing about giving energy to things. And actually, they also had a thing about like properly working out who you actually are and then what you can do as an actor. They weren't like sort of breaking you down. They were kind of going, well, you kind of know you have, you have long legs. Like, you know that, or you have big eyes, or that your voice can do this. So I wonder what that can do for that character. They didn't kind of like make you feel like you should become I think they just have a thing sometimes, or there's rumors of it, or people talk about people breaking you down. Royal Welsh College actually made you embrace who you are as an artist and then let that feed into what you're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's
there's a load of waffle.
Not at all, actually. I love the piece about the generosity, about kind of the
Yeah.
giving piece, Might get back to that in a minute. In relation to college then,
Yeah.
Does that finish with kind of showcases? How does that work? Like, what was the end of that process like for you?
Yeah, very like any other drama school. Like, you do a show every, I think it was like by half term, and then end of term, half term, end of term. So there'd be like 6 shows, maybe five. And then there'd be showcases as well in the spring. They used to take the showcases to Ireland, but they couldn't afford it anymore, so they would just go to London with it. So we went to London with it. And I was very lucky. I got, well, I don't know if I was lucky. I was surprised at first, but I got the lead in a musical, which was around springtime, and it was exactly around when the showcase was. So I was the lead in Thoroughly Modern Millie. So everybody got a lead. Everybody got something big.
Yeah.
And then you'd get loads of like really just good parts, and then you get a couple where you're basically not in. And so you just kind of managed yourself around that. And yeah, so I got the musical, and I was very into writing loads of letters and being very proactive about group cast letters to invite agents and invite casting directors to shows. But I was very conscious that like my main ambition in Royal Welsh College, because when I was asked where do you see yourself in 5 years, it was always with Druid Theatre Company. I was obsessed with Druid. And so I said to Dave, I was like, look, I really need to get like some Irish casting directors to see me or something, or like a chance, because you can't afford to go to Ireland anymore. And he was like, okay. I was like, look, if I can get 1 or 2 of them, me and my dad will try and pay for the flights, because I struggled a little bit financially through the college degree, but I was okay. Like, I had a job in the union, and then the Royal Welsh College sort of supported me, and they got me a Sophie Silver Lining Fund and stuff like that. So at first I was fine, but it was just as it went through, I kind of struggled. So he was aware that I was like really like just like eager to kind of make this happen. So in his kindness, he was like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay for putting them up if you can just maybe get them a cheap flight or whatever." And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool." And then he said, "But I'll tell you what, if you get Maureen Hughes over, I'll pay for her flights and I'll put her up in the Hilton." And I was like, "Okay." So I think this is like November or something, right? And I knew the musical was going to be around the second week of February. I went downstairs, Googled Maureen Hughes. Her email address was just on IFTN. Like, so I was like, okay, there's her email address. All right. So I email her and I say, "We'll look after you if you want to come over. Here's the dates." You know, she didn't know me from Adam, like didn't know who I was. And she wrote back within a few hours saying, "Yeah, I'd love to come." And I was like, I nearly ate the fucking keyboard. Like I was like, I literally was like, because that was like the term where I had a really small part in a play. Like I was just this maid in a play. I had nothing going on. I was just like, oh my God. Ran up to the office and I was just like, I printed out the email so as I could do a whole, oh, there you go. thing to do. Well, he was delighted. Like he was absolutely happy to do it. Absolutely grand. So then cut to a few months later, we're doing the musical. Maureen came over on the Saturday and I had to meet her for a coffee before the matinee that she was going to see. And so I met her for a coffee, and the college just looked after her so well. They had her out for a breakfast meeting, explaining to her what the college was all about and how Claire was getting on. Obviously bigging me up. Yeah. Thanks. And then I met Maureen, and I swear to God, I was sitting there, and it was that moment where your life changes. It was literally like, she goes, "Hang on a second. I think you'd make a great Peggy and Mike." Picks up her phone, rings Gary Hines in front of me. It's like, "Yeah, no, I've got this girl here, blah, 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 blah." Starts shooting the shit with her. Monday morning, okay. "Do you think you could be in Dublin at 9 o'clock on Monday morning?" Yeah, I think so. We had this showcase on Monday night in Wales, but I was like, yes, I can make that happen. And she literally put down the phone. She's like, "Right, so you're going to read for Peggy and Mike for their tour of Playboy the Western World around the UK." And I was like, okay, all right. And I went off and I was like, she hadn't even seen the play yet, you know. So cut to Monday morning, I fly to Ireland on the Sunday. On the Monday morning, I do the reading for Gary Hines, which I barely remember. I feel like I did something in the room. I don't really remember what. Then I got on a plane to Bristol because there was no flight early enough to Cardiff. The college paid £99 sterling for a taxi for me to get from Bristol to Cardiff to make my showcase on time. Wow. Like between my dad being my taxi man to the audition and my whole family being in Cardiff on the Saturday night as well to see me in the play. My family and Royal Welsh College, honest to God, they just like made that happen for me. And then I found out by the Friday night that I got the job, and sure, that was my ambition, like, was to work for Druid. And then I was working for them before I finished.
I mean, that's just an incredible story on.
Oh, like it was mental. It was mental.
Where did the aspiration, where did the grow for Druid come from? Like, what was that? Why was that your ambition?
I think I just saw them a lot when I was working in the Olympia as a barwoman, and they did Druid sing there.
Yeah.
And I had seen them over the years. I was like mad about them. I'd say my granny brought me to one or two things as well. And when I watched Druid, I used to think they were Druids because they had a kind of magic about them, huge poetry, but they were so earthy and grounded. And everything was about giving the energy to the other person. And it was all about the work. There was no ego. And I just think that is what came off the stage to me. And that's what I was interested in. I just didn't have, like, half the reason I used to hum and haw about acting was because I kept discovering arseholes, divas, and people that were up their own hole. And I was like, actually just, like, I used to just be like, but like, can we not just make it about the scene we're doing? Like, do you have to bring all that baggage with you? Like, do you know what I mean? I used to be like, just leave it at the door. So I had like, so that's the bit of me that's definitely a bit, that's probably me being up my own hole. But I got frustrated with aspects of the industry. And once I found people that were kind of like me, I went, oh, that's who I want to work with. It
But
was very simple.
but that is some amazing story. As you say, you get cast as Peggy Mike in the UK tour of phenomenal production of Playboy, and then like it's not just for a couple of weeks; it's for a long period of kind of time. How long did that tour go on for? I
I think
mean,
it was a good 2 months anyway.
yeah,
I'd say the job in total was the guts of 3 months.
yeah,
But my first job ever, I mean, that's long. Like, do you know what I mean? Because like up until that point, you've only ever probably played a part 5 nights in a row.
yeah,
So I learned the joy of what it feels like to grow with the part every night and really get to know the ins and outs of a person
yeah.
that you're playing. So
But,
that was
but
phenomenal.
also to be in that rehearsal room, and then obviously to be on stage. Like, was it pinch yourself moments? Yeah, I presume there was in relation to opening as Peggy Mike and kind of
Yeah, I think there was a lot of them. There was probably moments in the rehearsal room where I'd just be bewitched watching Dervla Crotty pick up the widow and play her in 2 weeks, like just because we only had 2 weeks rehearsing her, no problem. Moments with Erin Monaghan where we did our first go of the love scene, and it was just like Gary was like, okay, so we don't really need to direct that. That's grand. Like things like that where I'd be like, what? And it was because they all just had a profound respect for the writing. Like, and once you went with the writing, it kind of, so I learned loads. There was all those kind of moments where I was like, oh my God, yeah. Like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then I'd say it was before the rising curtain on the first night. I had to be on stage. I had to be preset for 5 minutes before the curtain raised. And I was in the shebeen on my own. And I think that was possibly, I don't think I've ever felt as grateful for anything in my life. I still remember just standing behind it and just being like, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm here. Because it was all I wanted, like, for ages.
yeah.
That was the height of my ambition at the time. It was just to work with Druid. So
Retire then, it's done.
yeah, I was kind of like, what do I do now?
Didn't you go on to work with them again? I mean, wasn't it kind of like what happened after Playboy?
Yeah, like there was kind of a period of like nothing straight after graduating and finishing the Druid thing. As in there was just like 6 months of no work, but it was, a year after the big crash of things as well. So so that was when I sort of, there was a little seed of my writing because I put on my own play in Smock Alley, and that was because I won a kind of grant or this like prize after graduating. So I had this like spare £1,000 sterling, which would have been about €1,100, and that was the exact amount you needed to rent the space in Smock Alley. So I decided to throw a show together, and I put that on because I had no work. But then I got a job. I did the Three Sisters with Lyric Hammersmith, and then it was like pretty much 2 years of like working with Druid
Okay.
and the National Theatre, maybe 2 or 3. So it was a mix of Druid and National Theatre, and oh man, like I knew how lucky I was, I think.
I mean, it's gas what you're saying there. You kind of that weird moment of kind of getting your dream and playing Pegeen and being on that stage in the rehearsal room with those people in that company, and then that 6 months. But like I think it goes to what you, from knowing you and watching you, what you have is that kind of you described it very well in kind of the Roy Welch. There's kind of the sense of the artistic and the philosophical and the art of it, but also there's the business or the career of it and the kind of work ethic of it, and it's kind of, different people wouldn't throw an extra grand into hiring a theatre to do a show.
Yeah, that was pretty risky, to be honest, because it was like, I think what it was, I'm just remembering now, I wasn't sure I was going to do it. And then I auditioned for the Three Sisters. And even though it was like not great money, like really not great money, I knew that I had something coming. And I looked at my bank account and I literally went, I can live off this much. Like it was that thing that you do where you sort of go, can I just survive until then? And I rang my dad and I rang 2 of my good friends. and I asked them all to produce and stage manage and be in my show. And they all said, yeah. Like the only person that I actually paid money was like, my extra money that I put into it was paying this guy, Chris, who had been in Royal Welsh College and was like from Ireland. And he was the only person I kind of paid because I had to pay him because he had to do so much. Like he had to stage manage, he had to technically light everything. He had to do everything. And he's the only person that got paid. And then my dad learned the ropes of stage management, which was...
Oh my God.
It was a family-run occasion, and then my sisters did the box office at the front, and that was an incredible experience, though, because like I think that was the seeds maybe of how 5 years later I went, maybe I should write actually.
Yeah.
So sorry, I've probably not answered the question.
You have, but I think you have to absolutely have, and I think what's interesting about your kind of acting work around that time. I mean, there were big shows and there were touring shows, and there was like, there was America, UK, Cripple of Inishmaan, Silver Tide, like, and that's, I'm working, I just say, in the national,
it was like real, sorry, I'm grabbing my spare cup because I'm going to pour some coffee. 1 second, people, I'm just pouring coffee. But it's probably cold at this stage, but sure, look. I think I was so lucky because basically in the grand scheme of things, I've had a kind of, not a slow burn, but a real gradual build in my work and my career. And I had a chance to sort of grow up a bit, basically. Like I've always been quite childish, as I mentioned when I spoke to Catherine Byrne. But that was an incredible time because I just got to expand as an actor. I got to stay with a character for a long time. I got to understand the depth of the craft it takes to understand all the stuff to do with theatre when you're changing venues. Then I also just got to see the world. Like I'd be out every day, walking the streets of wherever we were, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, fucking Charleston, San Francisco, LA. I was living by Venice Beach for a month at one point. Like, I experienced such amazing stuff that just then fed me. Like, it just fed me.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't even know what it was giving me at the time. But in retrospect, I look back and I go, Jesus, like, I was so lucky. Like,
but also the quality of the work. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't just touring.
Yeah.
It was like you're touring with, as you say, Druid, McDonough, Casey. There's... in the national with with three sisters, and further on, I mean, like, and I think it's that sense of I said before about that learning and looking and kind of growing up through that.
I think I learned a lot from the people around me. Like, I went from going around with the Druid crew and even then working with Eamon and John Ola and all those crew, but also in the national I worked with like Sinead Cusack and Tom Von Lawler. I just remember really being aware of humility and kind of like innovation, like just throwing something at the canvas. It doesn't matter if you fall on your face. And I think that's what I learned. By the way, just when you asked a question there, I turned around like, yeah! And I was like, oh, that's why Marty Ray used to always slag me about me big eyes. That's the thing about Zoom, people, you just can't hide. But no, honestly, I really learned so much from being around them. And I think also they taught you that, like, it's okay if you're not working all the time. Like, people of experience will make you realize that. I really, honest to God, Tom Von Lawler, he'd already done the first 1 or 2 series of Love Hate when I was working with him. And it was all only starting to like be out there. And after we were finished up on a Saturday or a Sunday on Juno and the Paycock, and he'd already lined up his week of doing telesales work.
Yeah.
And like,
it's the reality of it.
He was just like, well, I have a son, like,
yeah,
I've just had a baby, and Claire is not working, and I've been the wage, so that's what I just have to do. Yeah. He didn't see it as something to apologise for.
Right, it was what it was.
hang on to that, Claire, because you can't be hard on yourself when you're not getting work all the time. You just have to go and do a normal job. It's okay.
Yeah.
And also, in those jobs, you meet new people and you meet new walks of life or things that you're not that familiar with. And it keeps you grounded, but it also, you gain little things, like you gain little, you know, the way life observation is what gives you little ticks for characters and all. So I think I took a lot from all that,
And
definitely.
that was obviously Juno the Paycock was with the Abbey as well. There was kind of was that your first time? Was that before or Major?
Juno's first thing I ever did at the Abbey. So
But I think it was a fantastic production, and again, it would kind of had that, you know, Howard Davis directed that, yeah.
yes, God rest him. Yeah, he
I think,
was phenomenal. Yeah.
I think there was that sense of, yeah, a sense of kind of, I suppose, for you, then moving into that. So I suppose not both national theaters, and then you know, you kind of were living. Was that the UK? Was the UK living? Was that kind of around that time that you kind of went there, stayed there? Was that?
Yeah. I think pretty much after the Druid touring phase, like calmed down, I based myself in London, had a bit more time in the National Theatre. Uh, and it was great. It was really, really great. I got to play such an amazing character in a modern play straight after Juno. And then there was a kind of gap of a few months, and then it was pretty much the Donmar phase and that. So I kind of went from like I was just living the dream in terms of mainstream theatre. I think I was really lucky. I wasn't like back to back with the work, but I definitely had like something to look forward to every year to play. So that was
Well, I
great.
mean, well, then let's talk about this you know, amazing, you know, feat that you were all involved in the Donmar. You know, I didn't see it live, but I've seen the film recordings of
Oh yeah.
them, and just how did that come about? I mean, that made that kind of, well, I suppose the Shakespeare that turned into a season, you know, or not a season, but a kind of a trilogy.
Yeah, like it spawns all from Phyllida Lloyd and Harriet Walter having a conversation years ago about doing something all female. And then it obviously transpired into auditioning all those girls to be part of something that they didn't know what was going to be. It was going to be some sort of animal, they just didn't know what it was. And they had a breakthrough of like, what if we're female prisoners putting on the show? So there's a concept so the audience can accept that only these women can play these parts. And that was like that was pretty simple, but also it was based on experience that Phyllida had had in prison workshops, where she said she felt like people of certain walks of life and who have been through certain things and ended up in prison, my God, did they connect to the language in a very instinctive way. So like, I wonder, can we use that really instinctive thing? And if you're a person that has committed certain crimes or experienced certain things in your life, how you respond to Shakespeare. So it was a double layer thing for
Yeah.
us to do, but you know, we eventually understood it. And so we created our prisoners and then created the thing. But at first it was like they just had to get the crew together, and it was such a motley crew. Like it was so funny. It was just like people of all age and experience and shape, size, and color. Like, and I thought I'd done the worst audition of my life, but apparently it was grand, and I managed to get the only female role in the fucking thing, which was ironic. But I got to play two roles in Julius Caesar, the first thing. And we really didn't know what we were making. We didn't know. We had 6 weeks of rehearsal because they needed it so we could create the concept. But I still remember the first run through we ever did in front of a few of the Donmar staff, and they were weeping. Like they were like, you don't know what this is. You don't know what it is. It's going to do something. And then I think the first preview, I remember thinking, oh my God, I think I'm part of something that's going to be a bit of a theatre history mark, or at least a little. And it was because the first preview, I've never experienced before or since like this, people were banging their feet. They were stamping their feet and roaring, and they were going, more, 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 we need more. Like, and people screaming stuff. It was like, Jesus. Now it did divide opinion in London, but it was because it was so new and it was just so different. But I think New York the following year, they welcomed it with open arms. And I think because the venue in New York probably suited it better, probably. We could really play with the prison aspect of things in New York a lot better. But I think because their prison system is even probably tougher than ours, there was a lot more, identification with it in the audience. And I just think then it was like, oh my God, we're on to something. And then once New York had happened, it was like, let's do it again, let's do it again. And then it was like, so it was like year by year, it was like London, New York, London, New York. And then, so the second thing was Henry IV, by which stage I was having another, God, I don't know if I should be an actor anymore moment, but then they got me with Henry IV. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And we went and did that in London. And then it just became a bit more, people understood it a bit better.
Yeah.
And then it became its own thing, yeah. And then by, was it 2016 we did the trilogy? I think it was 2016. And it was amazing. It was really, because it was like a whole building that was built in King's Cross, and half the building was the David Bowie musical that Andy Walsh had written, and then the other half was, and it was like, we were like the edgy thing in town, and I was just like, this is amazing. Like, it was.
You open, what went you the first thing in St. Anne's in Brooklyn? What went you the first show in there?
Yeah, we did the first one there, and then every single one of them were there, and that building is amazing. So they had their old building the first time we were there in with Julius Caesar, and then the second time we were in their new building, which is like stunning, and it looks onto Manhattan, and when you just look at it at night, it's ridiculous. Like the view, it's like Brooklyn Bridge is like going there, and then Manhattan's in front of you, and you can see the water, and then there's a little like merry-go-round, is that what you call it? Like a little car for kids and all that. Like, oh my God, beautiful.
But also to play Prince Hal, I mean, to play that part as well, no matter what context it is, incredible.
Yeah, it was great. I really I just learned so much on that role, because I got to play the prisoner of that character through it as well. So there was a lot of things that we were able to play with in that, like addiction and friendship and betrayal and honor and what it means to do what your dad wants you to do and when you don't want to do that, or whatever it might be. So it was huge. It was very big. I probably broke my body on that though. Like I did. So much kickboxing, so many stunts and rolling around and fucking, oh God, it was mental. But it was phenomenal, and I'm really, obviously I'm glad I did it. It was.
And it also became a kind of, you mentioned a kind of piece of a landmark in, British theatre, but also it became, because of what was going on culturally in, say, the UK and Ireland and Britain at the moment and around the world, it became a touchstone for kind of gender as well. There was a whole kind of, the energy behind that show that kind of.
Yeah, like it was so weird, Mark, because I was in New York doing Henry IV when the Wake the Feminist thing happened. So I got all the girls in the cast, got everyone, we were all doing the Wake the Feminist thing. And then the mad thing happened when I had no one to bring to the show, like the opening night, but I had one distant cousin, like she's weirdly related to me, Lisa Tierney Keogh. I said, do you want to come to this opening? Because I don't actually have anyone to bring. She's like, yeah, defo. So she came along with a friend of hers to the opening. And I was in the thing about St. Anne's and how we had it all set up, we all had to like get changed after as quick as we could, but we had no showers and all, and you'd be there like baby wiping yourself and fucking doing whatever and trying to get changed real quick to run out to the party, but you were behind this big curtain. So I was standing there in basically underwear. Meryl Streep walks into to say well done to us. Not only that, but that's the second time that's happened, because that happened on Julius Caesar as well. So I'm standing there in a sports bra and knickers when she wants to hug me. So I'm like, hey, how's it going? And I'm down there going, oh my God. And I'm just in complete shock. And she was in and out in about 5 minutes, went around like the Queen, said well done to everyone, went outside. And Lisa Tierney Keogh, thank God, grabbed hold of her with a plaque saying, Wake the Feminists, or a piece of paper saying it. And so I feel mildly connected to the moment that we went viral. And I think that was great. Like that was great for all the girls back home to have Meryl Streep go, yeah, I'll jump on board. But that's because of Lisa, not because of me. I was too busy going, fuck, I'm in my underwear, I can't hold up a sign. So I completely give it to her. So yeah, I felt like I was definitely part of a big shift.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
and it's great.
Yeah, and come here to me when around that time as well. I mean, obviously they were filmed, or a couple of them were filmed, weren't they? But Julius Caesar certainly was, and was Henry the Fourth filmed as well. It was.
Yeah, all the trilogy was filmed in 2 Saturdays. We did them all in one day, and we did 7 cameras one side, 7 cameras the other. So some of it got cut because some of it just wouldn't match up day to day. But so we did it not like the usual live theater. We did it almost like TV studio style, if you know what I mean. So yeah, so that's all on a DVD that you can actually buy now, which is a bit mental. But it's definitely still theater, theater on camera, so it's not like film acting.
Speaking of that
So,
film, I mean, there was, and my own sons would kill me if I didn't ask you about this. They're big Marvel fans, and I remember bringing them to Spider-Man, yeah, and I was kind of going, Jesus, there's Claire Dunne on the screen.
you're doing a reaction shot to something. What's going on? Look, I come from a group of actors in the world that have done 200 self-tapes, and you think they never go anywhere. I really struggled getting screen work in my career. Not struggled entirely, but like we all just do a lot of tapes, right? But I didn't know that Marvel store everything.
Wow.
They keep everything. And if they suddenly have written a new part and then they need to cast really fast, sometimes they just go into their little storage unit and go, there's a girl that's like, 5'9", brown hair. She can do loads of character acting because she did this weird thing for us in a tape. It was sort of one of those things.
Yeah.
And so I got very lucky. The universe just looked down and went, yeah, sure. And I couldn't believe it. It all happened so fast. I was over. I found out at midday on a Friday, and I was in London Sunday night in a hotel, driven to set on the Monday morning and getting shoved into a costume. By 11 o'clock in the morning, Jake Gyllenhaal was saying, how's it going? I'm Jake. Do you mind if I just get by there? I just need to get a cup of coffee. And I was like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. It was like that. It was like that. And it was like, I knew it was only going to be a tiny role, and it was just like an ensemble thing.
Yeah.
I'm so happy because I hadn't really gotten much screen work in my career anyway. I had a few struggles with it. Like I'd done a lot of tapes. I'd done a lot of, I lived in New York for a bit and worked there and read a lot of scripts, good and bad. And it was kind of, I had already at that point kind of gone, I don't know if I'm going to get into film in front of camera. There's a lot of things, like there's a lot of factors. It's like you're up against millions of people. There's a lot of competition. I have no bloody CV of screen work anyway. And in Hollywood and New York and all that experience at that time, I was having to do a lot of things like cover up my birthmark, which was a little bit tough. But, in myself, I'd already been like, I was over that in myself because I was pretty hardened and had a bit of a strong spine from being told about that before. I was just like, no, I'm just going to act anyway. And but I guess at that point, I was given into the path of least resistance. I was like, I'm probably not going to get screen work from acting. I'll just write. So by the time I got offered Spider-Man, I was writing away on my film that is now coming out, and like started research on that, because at that point I suppose I just was like, I think I want to be happier in my daily life. I definitely still want to be involved in film, and my main dream is I just want to get on a film set. So if it's not in front of the camera, that's grand, it'll be behind. So I was more surprised than anyone to get Spider-Man, is basically what I'm saying. And so it made me realize, I was actually thinking about it the other day. I was like, oh, it's like sometimes you have these wishes for things and you're like, you think it's not going to happen because like a few years past, you're like, oh, geez, like maybe it'll just never happen. And then sometimes things surprise you when you just least expect it. So I would say like it is a bit of a waiting game, but definitely get on with nurturing your own creativity, because I'm glad I did that now in retrospect, because like with all that time off, I just kind of wrote.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say.
And in relation to the writing, Claire, I mean, before we get into that, I'd like to just kind of talk about two shows. One was just your performance in Tribes in the Gate. And I think I told you before, I saw a production of that in New York 10 years ago, and I just kind of, when I saw it coming on the Gate, I went, oh yeah. And then when I saw the casting, I went, oh yeah. But just the what was extraordinary in it was your journey of obviously your character, but the journey to deafness of that character and the precision. I think that's something that, not to be blowing smoke, but I think that's something that you have, that I kind of just, you can't take your eyes off you, is that kind of sense of very precise, very, very technical, very precise, but then a kind of a freeness with that, which is just extraordinary to watch. But that character, like, that must be some journey to get.
Yeah, that was a real special thing. I don't know if there's ever been at before or since. I think it's like, as you say, I am into getting things technically quite on point sometimes. I think that's because I like to set up a structure for myself. Just, it's for my nerves, really. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that thing of like learning off your lines so well that you can't forget them. It's like, sometimes I am a bit like that, and I'll research and I'll do that to the nth degree, but then I throw it out the window. Then I literally let go, and then I try and like breathe inside of whatever I'm doing. But saying that, with the Tribes role, I think it was like relearning acting in a whole new way. It was like, because I had to develop a different way of listening. So it was like I had this new sixth sense that I had to develop. And I think that's where I learned about how deaf people really operate and why they kind of are so honest. It's because they see things, they see body language much more overtly than us, and they take in way more from that. And honest to God, you'll never get away with lying to a deaf person. Like, I swear to God. Like, you're so observant of people. And I think I learned so much from that. Like, and I felt like I was learning how to listen with that muscle and listen with my gut and my heart to a much deeper level. And therefore, like, all the head stuff had to fuck off. And it was like having a lobotomy. And I just had to really, really act instinctively. And I couldn't let the ball drop emotionally. Just couldn't. It wouldn't allow me to. So I learned so much from that role, and it's really Alex was the main person I have to thank for all that. And then obviously Caroline O'Leary, one of the best CODAs, as they're called, children of deaf adults. She does a lot of like the stuff that Amanda does for theatre. So between Amanda and Caroline and then Shane O'Reilly, I just felt like I got this amazing opportunity to express something that is very particular, but oh God, I just miss it actually as well sometimes. So yeah, that was a very particularly special role for acting itself.
Because you have done, with the Gate, kind of, you've done that, and also with the Alison Porter, Look Back in Anger, and obviously then with Selena, you did the Fringe show, Grounded, which was just talk about putting yourself through something, that
Yeah.
I mean, an extraordinary piece of kind of writing, but an extraordinary task for an actor to try and embody in a one-person show.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, that was kind of insane, that thing. I think that, like, that probably gave me a bit of a spine, a newer one, because I had to have it. Because it's obviously you and your own with the audience, but with that one, she had a big stage, big physical task to play with like 15 chairs, and run up and down them, and run a lot, and play all the characters in such a fucking distinct way. Yeah, like, I think everybody's got one of them in them. I'm sure I'd have something like that in me again, but things like that, you have to just give yourself to them. Like, you just have to, like, the week of the Fringe, I didn't do anything else. Like, I was just in Epsom salt baths, going to physio, doing the prep for the show, and then running with it. Like, but I really think those things can, like, really you have to get yourself out of the way. You don't have time to doubt yourself. I still remember one morning when I had a big shooting pain go through my leg, or something went wrong my muscle, and I told it to fuck off with my mind, because I was like, you have to do a run through now.
Yeah.
That's just the way it's going to be. And I remember doing the run through and I was sweating, Mark. I don't even sweat, and I had sweat pouring down me. And we were in this church rehearsing. I still remember just getting to the end of that run through and I couldn't believe I was still alive. Like, I was like, I did it. I did it. So yeah, everyone has one of them.
Yeah. And come into me, so like, I think I want to talk about herself, and I also want to talk about Sherlock Fuck It. And maybe with Sherlock Fuck It first, because it's in the same kind of theatre kind of world before we. How did that kind of emerge for you, Claire?
It was one of those accidental things, which I certainly learned a lot from, because I didn't know that when you're just having the crack and making something for no reason, that sometimes it can happen that it becomes something. Basically, I was making a present for my uncle. He's an artist himself and has a jazz band, and he was having this night in the Garda Boat Club with his daughter Alva playing music with her band and so on and so forth. And he asked me, would I kind of be like a compere? And then he said, would you just do a nice, funny piece for me for my birthday? That's what I'd love as my present. And I think I just love you and Alva to do something. And I was like, yeah, sure. It was because me and Alva used to mess around with stuff for years. And I literally had that old rhyme, sure, look at fuck it, written at the end of this piece that I'd written about a girl that just kept fucking up her job interviews all the time. And I was like, I thought that phrase was already trademarked somewhere. I was like, that's too easy. Like, somebody's already done this. But it's grand because it's my uncle's birthday and it's not a professional gig, so I'm just going to do it. And I made everybody shout back, fuck it, on the night, and like had the crack and was comparing for the others. And I think the piece we did was about 20 minutes long or something. But I didn't know that Stephen Smith was in the audience. And then Monday morning, I get this phone call from Emma Kieran saying, I heard you're doing spoken word. And I was like, I'm not doing spoken word. I did something that rhymed at a party. What are you talking about? So literally it was accidental. Ended up in his, he had a spoken word thing at Body and Soul a few weeks later. So I did that. That was like a dream come true. Felt like a bleeding rock star. Got to go to Body and Soul for free. And then Willie White heard about it and he said, oh, would you do Electric Picnic but make it an hour long in the theatre tent? And I was like, okay. So I did it all for free, really. Like, I mean, I got, 50 quid or something at Body and Soul. And then, I don't know, I got something fairly decent at Electric Picnic. But I mean, I wrote a load of material for it for nothing. But it was because I was being supported by people around me. And I felt very much like, oh my God, I felt like I was part of the beating heart of like what was going on in Dublin then, because everybody was mad into spoken word. Everybody loves Emma Kieran and like everyone loves going to these festivals. So I was like, this is deadly. Like, I feel like I'm part of something. And then it was into the next year when I was doing Look Back in Anger. Philly McMahon rang me because he had heard about all that, but he hadn't seen it. But somebody dropped out of one of the slots for the Where We Live festival. So there was this slot going with Tom Creed as director of whatever it was going to be. And he just basically was like, do you want like a day and a half slightly workshopping it, and then you can throw it on its feet in front of people and see what happens. And then it was,
wow.
a year after that we were on in the project with This Is Pop Baby. So to go from just an accidental rhyme to that, I was so lucky. And This Is Pop Baby are great. Like, obviously they just know like what people want or something. They're just like, they just tap into something. And I was so lucky. And that's why I sold out. Like, it was because I was working with them. I don't think if I was on my own, I would have done so well. Like,
well, yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
And I mean, obviously we're going to talk about a film that hasn't come out yet to the public, so I'm not going to go into it in relation to too much, but in relation to herself, I mean, like I suppose going from the end back, like the experience of actually kind of putting that together must have been extraordinary. We'll talk about that in a second, but then the experience of kind of and thankfully just before the lockdown happened, of premiering it in the Dublin Film Festival. I mean, was that it? I mean, sorry. Before, did you have any sense when you were writing it that, like, was it something you kind of What was the dream in your head, I suppose, Claire, when you kind of started putting pen to paper? What was kind of...
Uh, well, I remember I got the idea in a flash in New York, and at first I just knew I just want to tell a story about, you know, like the stock character, the battered woman, but do it different, because I've never seen it done in a way that'd be a bit edgy, like just a bit more current,
Yeah,
and also where she's not such a victim. And I mean, not such a victim from the start.
yeah.
Like you're never saying, "Oh, per her," um, and she played the victim herself. It was just she was a hero in her own right. Actually, she was a hero to stay, and she was a hero to go. I just knew it was something like that. That's kind of what I knew, and I knew that she was gonna. Um, she decides to help herself, and therefore help arrives. Like that was pretty much the
Okay.
two palettes of color I had. Uh, and it was definitely stemming from a bit of rage at my close friend having to declare herself homeless and be on her own with 3 kids in one room at the time. And also maybe from, I suppose, I was also just like sick of not very satisfying things in scripts that I've been going for as well. So I was like, in general, I wanted to write some good parts for some people, but I didn't ever think I was going to be in it. I was just writing it because I thought that was going to be my way into film. So as long as I was getting it made and getting paid to write, I thought that's the dream.
Yeah,
That's my dream. My new dream is to be more happier every day, be a bit creative, and get paid to do it,
yeah,
and have a bit of an easier life.
yeah.
So that was kind of the dream.
Was that kind of the writing of it and putting the nuts and bolts of it together? Like, you know, obviously Philip Lloyd, you know, ended up doing it, and there was an associate. But how did was it? How did you kind of approach that end of it, of having this script or having this idea or having, you know, what kind of...
Yeah, it was just like step by step. Really, I spent my months not working, which were a good few every year. Actually, to be honest, there was a few years there. It was more like I would be only working half the year technically, um, which was fine. Like that's just the way it goes. But I would struggle with my own well-being and happiness if I just didn't have something to do, because I love doing stuff. So I loved the fact that I now was researching this thing. So I did it for nothing at the start, teaching myself with books, documentaries. I actually got myself a retreat in Anna McCarrick as well. And I did things like that. And what did I do? I applied for the Screenplay Development Fund, didn't get it the first time. So I just worked on it again for another year. I got it the second time because the second time I actually met up with Rory Gilmartin in the film board, which really helped, and talked out my idea with him. Because apparently, at the time, I only found out by doing a short film with Nikki Gogan, who also got me a Bow Street read of my script, which is brilliant. And she said you actually should try and meet somebody in the film board or Screen Ireland when you're applying for things. Try and get in touch with them personally or talk on the phone to someone and then submit your application, which I didn't know, which is like a kind of, it's a bit unfair because I was just applying online, obviously. But then look, it all worked out in the end, got the development fund. And that, so then by 2016, I had a bit of money to write and research, and that was amazing. And then I was still working with Philida. I ended up with the email address of Sharon Horgan. I sent her an email and I basically cheekily sent her the script. And so basically it's a thing like emailing Maureen Hughes. I just emailed a person and I was a little bit like, fuck it, might as well try. Sent it to her and she actually read it straight away. I thought it was going to be on a pile in a fucking room somewhere. And she read it and she said, I want to support you with this. So get your screenplay development fund finished with. And then, because you had to do that on your own with no producer attached. She goes, but then let me please attach myself after. And I was like, okay, brilliant. Like, so I went off, worked with the Irish Film Board. then after all that, Sharon was like, great, what can we do now? We need to get a director attached. And Phillida asked me, could she have a look at it? She'd heard from one of the girls that I had the script. I didn't actually ask her. I never actually asked her to direct the film directly. She just asked me, could she read it? And then, yeah, she just had this day where she texted me and said, I want to direct your film. And I was like, what? At the time, I was at the cinema with Niamh Algar, so we had a cocktail and like, just the hell is going on? And so then Sharon and Phillida and me and her, we all had a coffee and we went, okay, this is great. We all got on great. We all want the same things from this story. And then Sharon was like, who's the dream Irish company that you want to work with? And I was like, Element, obviously. And she got the script to Ed Guiney within the next couple of days. And then we met him at his Christmas party in London. And who was working for him by then? Rory Gilmartin, who first gave me my screenplay development fund. So it was a bit weird. It was like, whoa, that's such a coincidence. And it was there at that table that Phillida said, I have one condition. It's that Clare plays the lead. And which was a surprise to me because I didn't know she was going to say that. And Ed was like, yeah, okay. And I was like, because I had spent 2 years sending the script to like Shauna, Niamh Algar. Actually, Niamh did the read through of Bow Street for me as well. I sent it to Rebecca Grimes, Camille, I think maybe Charlie Murphy at one point. I just kept asking other actresses to consider it because I just wanted to get financed.
Yeah.
But then when you have somebody like Phillida Lloyd, you have a bit more chance, a bit more sway. Now, it didn't mean that we got financed straight away.
Yeah.
We still had Ballymun for another couple of years. But my God, I had them. I had the dream team. I had people that were behind the story in the same way that I was, but also like willing to take me on as the actress.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really quite expected that. And then it was great. I was getting all the things that I didn't expect.
For you, Claire, I mean, you know, that moment again, kind of like you mentioned the Shebeen with Peggy Mike, but that must have been an extraordinary moment for you. On one level, absolutely, you know, the long journey getting finances together and writing and finishing and redrafting and all that. But then separated from that, when the story had been made into the screenplay, been made into the, but to be stepping on your own set.
Yeah, I think if anyone is listening to this and they ever get to make their first feature, I think you'll realize the best bit is just about when you're just starting to film. Like, it's just so magic. I remember even just like being told, come down to the production offices. And I was like, production offices? I was like, so I had to come down and help with the last auditions. And I went down and they had this place, like they had a building and they had a work yard and they were building bits of the house. And I was like, I was seeing the world being created. And there was like in the office building, there was set designers and they had mini models of things. And I remember going, oh my God, I wrote all this down. But now it's like something else. I had to go into the costume department and have all these fittings. And I was like, what the hell is going on? That was huge for me. Like that was huge joy in the journey. And and then when you see all the trailers, like as well, oh my God, that's the best crack. And then the catering. Oh my God, you're like, yeah, this is all great. But I think there was a great moment as well that was a huge lesson to me. And near the end was Niall, our locations guy, who is so funny, so positive. The things that can go wrong when you're in the process of filming, you've got to have somebody like Niall on board. He's like, he finds his way around obstacles like you wouldn't believe, and that happen on the day. And he said to me on the wrap party, he just went, well, thanks a million for a job. I really enjoyed that one. And I went, all right, yeah. And he goes, well, I hope you write another film because I could really use another job because you know you gave all of these people work to do for a few months. And yeah. I remember going, oh my God, I feel like it sounds stupid, but you forget that when you're writing a script and you're developing a script in film for years, you think it's endless and sometimes it's torture and you have to write 25 drafts, right? But it's because films are miracles. They're actually miracles. They're a thing where all the art forms come together and we all have to be in sync and we all have to make the one story together. And the reason it takes so long to come together is because there has to be enough belief that it's all set up and it's ready to go. And then the financial people will go, yes, I will back this now.
Yeah.
But it's got a synchronicity, it's got its own thing. And I realized the achievement of even making it happen in itself is like, that's grand. Like by the end of May last year, I was like, you could have told me my film was going to be in the bin or not even get into a cinema. It didn't matter because I'd gotten there and I'd had that experience. And I think if anyone's out there thinking about writing their first feature or making that first feature happen, and it might take you years, you have to realize why. It's because it's already going to be a miracle if it happens.
Well,
So
far,
yeah,
far
there's
from far from it being put in the bin. Like
yeah,
I remember sitting at home. I remember when it was, but kind of seeing on Twitter this kind of review from Sundance, from Variety, and kind of going, "Oh Jesus Christ!" And that must have. I mean, obviously not. I mean, obviously, I think reviews. I mean, I think they mean different things, but certainly within film, there are very different animals, say, than theatre. Well, certainly in some, in some contexts, but Sundance must have been just the most extraordinary thing.
I mean, Sundance was a milestone. It was a milestone for probably my whole life and career, actually, on some mad level. It was like a joining of the two, because I was sitting there with Philida and her partner, my mom and dad, my own partner Jack, and we were like, when the way the audience reacted during the film and then after the film, and then when they stood on their feet for Philida and then for myself and Sharon, as we all walked on, you could feel this sort of like a gut response to the film, and it was to the story. And I knew it was because we'd honed at it, we edited it, we kept pushing it, it's like, that's the thing I learned from Philida, was like, you just like cut the crap and you fucking make it gripping and you keep it going and you energize it and all that kind of thing. But you also just you just have to keep hitting it back to the center of what the story is about as well, and keep it there. And I think we held on to our instincts about what it was already about, and I think that shone through. And I think it cut through all the crap that can usually get a standing ovation. It was like, no, it was for the right reason. And then I think standing on that stage and getting asked certain questions about it, I knew by the questions that I was getting asked that it was because it had hit certain buttons in people, and that's what I wanted to happen with the story. So I knew then I'd achieved what I wanted all those years ago, when I was so angry about a lot of things, or passionate about a lot of things, and about my own path and where I was. I just knew, okay, I've done it now. I've done it. That's what all that was about, and that's part of what this was for. I mean, so yeah, not that I suffered all the way towards that point. I did. It was just, it made sense of a lot of things about my ideas of storytelling and writing, and why I was so obsessed with the writers for years, and reading plays and reading as well. And I don't know, it just, everything just seemed to fit then, I
mean, I'm not going to keep you much longer, but it's worth saying that
I don't want to keep your listeners much longer. Jesus, they'll be exhausted.
But the sense as well, I mean, there's a team involved in that, and after seeing the film, I mean, the one thing I will say, and it doesn't give anything away, is that it doesn't never let you off the hook. It kind of, once you think you have it, you kind of know where it's going to go. It kind of just goes off, and that's what's brilliant about it. But with staying true to the characters. I mean, from Harry Walters to Ian, to Kathy Bell, there's a great ensemble and many more. There's a great ensemble cast there, but everyone seemed to be pointing in very much in that same direction.
Yeah, I think because a lot of the actors got in touch with me before it because they were very interested in how I came up with certain things in the script or their characters, and they wanted to be sure they were getting things right. And so then I was able to relay to them how during the whole journey of the film, how it taught me things, which is because I met a lot of people along the way and learned a lot about society and how it all really works in those worlds. Like I met Dominic Stevens, the architect who designed the house, Sinead, this woman in Women's Aid, who ended up sort of being the core like person that I would have based Kathy Belton's character on. So Kathy went and met Sinead for hours one day.
Yeah.
I completely knew what she was like, even dressed like her. So there was a bit of a sort of method acting thing going on sometimes, which I didn't expect, but it was actually because I was basing a lot of it on real experience or real meetings I had with people. So then the actors being who they are, they wanted to be fully researched. They wanted to know everything. Ian didn't even really ask me anything. He just was spouting all this stuff in the car one day when we were on the way to the day we were doing some of the tougher scenes. And that's when I knew I had the perfect actor, because he's the complete opposite to his character, actually. But he does what I do, especially when I'm playing an evil character. You want to find out what the thorn in their ankle is. What is it that has made them have so much pain that they act like that? So he had done all this research on all the stuff that would be going on with this guy, about why he is the way he is. He had it down like to the nth degree. And when you watch it, you honest to God, like you love him, you hate him, you love him, you hate him. He's phenomenal because he did a huge amount of thinking and research, and he had huge respect for what this was about in a bigger sense, in the wider like sociological sense as well. So like I just think because all the actors on the set, even the one dayers, like the one day actors, they were so part of it. Like Phillida would ask them what they think about things. Do you feel comfortable about that? How do you feel about that shot on yourself? They couldn't believe it because they were like used to just being shoved on and with like a really uncomfortable costume on or something. Like they weren't used to having so much asked of them.
Yeah.
But would ask every person on set all the time what they think.
Yeah.
She'd ask the sound guy, the lighting up, whatever. She'd be like, "What do you think that's good?" Like when you're watching, like you'd be sitting in the real intimate scenes, and there'd be somebody with a bleeding mic boom like this, and she'd be like, and we'd do the scene a couple of times, and then she'd go, "Louis, what do you think of that? Do you believe that now?" And it's like, "Do you think we should, like, And they'd be like, me? Well, no, like I think it's great what you're doing. If you think it's bad, like, they'd be afraid to say something at first, and they'd be like, no, you're working with a director who is so humble and so ego-less.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you got to give her something. Like she wants to know because she thinks of it as a collaborative thing. So that, I think, knitted into everything. And
then
yeah.
and then I suppose your relationship with kind of Harriet, born out of the fire of Donmar, in the trilogy.
Harriet, me and Harriet, who threw biscuits at each other in an improv once. See, I'd read one of her books when I was like 15 or 16, and in her shoes or in other people's shoes. It's her book about becoming an actor and how she thinks acting affects the world and how storytelling affects the world. So she was one of the people that made me inspired, like made me think, oh, acting is something that's very real, not just lolling about, learning lines. And so to go from that through playing her wife, her enemy, her son, like I'd already done all that on stage, and then I got to do this with her, and like, I mean, it's like we don't even have to talk anymore. Like she'd sometimes go, "Oh yeah, so you'll take it off that," and then I'll, okay, and then she'd go, "For this take, Claire, I'm just letting you know that I think I'm going to put the emphasis on this word, just so as you know, I'm going to do it this way." Because she'd be respecting me as a writer. She'd be like, "I'm just going to try it like that, just in case they can, because she was so experienced. She'd know that in editing, it might make more sense with this, right? Or like, so she was just, I mean, she was all over it. And she was also very, very, very much in love with the kids in the film, and that really helped.
Here, I'm going to let you go. I mean, obviously, the
Yeah.
movie is going to be out soon to the general public, and I would advise everybody to go and see it because it's an extraordinarily powerful piece. And Claire, I thank you so much for taking part in this today. And we're early June, and we're hopefully emerging over the summer from some class of freedom, and hopefully get to see you live in a theatre soon as well.
Yeah, no, I hope all of us get a bit more of the one thing I've learned during this whole time was like shared experience does matter, whether it's in a stage, a gig, or screen. I think all of us gathering together and the need for storytelling is just like even more needed now. So I would take that and run with it and know that we will fly again.
We will. Thanks very, very much.
Thank you so much, Mark. All right, cheers.
Bye.